Welcome to our Rosh Kollel reading list and this extraordinary, uplifting, sobering, and inspiring volume, Building a Life Worth Living. It's a memoir authored by Marsha M. Linehan, the founder of the DBT psychiatric intervention process. Dr. Linehan is an accomplished psychiatrist, a life goal that she attained through hard work, but also through an excruciatingly painful process. And she created this concept, the DBT process of therapy, to treat and help individuals suffering with Rahman al-Islam, the most difficult mental illnesses, whether it's borderline personality disorder or those who are attempting suicide, Rahman al-Islam. The book is the story of her very unexpected and extraordinary life journey, and it's the trajectory of how she developed this therapy. The core of the therapy is the first letter, D, dialectic. And in the 26th chapter, she describes how she found this term. She had an executive assistant whose husband was a Marxist philosopher at the university. And one day, while she was talking to her executive assistant about the therapy, she said, "Marsha, your treatment is dialectical." That's the D. Dialectics, she writes, I'd never heard of it. So I looked it up in the Merriam-Webster dictionary and found the following definition: a method of examining and discussing opposing ideas in order to find the truth. She adds, I like to think of it as, quote, the tension or synthesis between opposites. This is the shorish, the source of what she calls DBT, and it's based on the notion that everything is dialectic. Everything in nature is a dynamic balance between opposing forces. Planet Earth has a tendency to fly off into space because of centrifugal force, but the sun's gravity opposes that. So she's talking about dialectic in the world, and then in the context of therapy with her very, very traumatized clients. She writes, many of my clients are severely traumatized by one or both of their parents. Then she explains, I try to help them grasp that both outrage and understanding can come together. Their parents' behavior was reprehensible and it was caused, meaning that the parents behaved as they did because of something that happened in their own lives. She describes how the therapist must help find the synthesis of opposites, looking for the synthesis. And she says that therapy is like being on a teeter-totter, back and forth. The therapist must be able to speak for both sides. You are miserable and want to die. I can understand how you feel, how painful your life is at times, and how hard it is to stay alive. On the other hand, I can also imagine the tragedy of your dying by suicide. I know you often think no one cares, but I'm pretty sure you know that I care, that your cat cares, and if you really think about it, that your parent cares. I totally believe that you can build a life that you will view as worth living. Even in your tears, you have to believe, whether you believe it or not, letting go of disbelief, holding on to hope. This dialectic is true in therapy, it's true in learning. This is the revolutionary approach that the great Balei HaTosfos, the Talmudists, the grandsons of Rashi in France, and their disciples in the 12th and 13th centuries looked at to analyze the Talmud, the Gemara. The Tosfos are looking at, well, you have one passage on one side and another passage, and how do they coexist? But the truth is that this dialectic is at the heart of all of our Avodas Hashem. On the one hand, there's the validation part of the dialectic component, which is really rooted in Ava, in acceptance, in validation, in saying we're good. The Rebbeinu Shalom loves us. Nothing can break our connection to him. But on the other hand, there is the other part of the dialectic in the therapy that encourages change, moving forward, accountability, for ourselves, an element of yira, of sivui, of commandment. And this is the dialectic of our avodas Hashem, of our spiritual journey. That on the one hand, we have to embrace ourselves, validate ourselves, give ourselves a pat on the back, nurture our spiritual self-esteem. On the other hand, we have to have a vision for growth, constantly moving the target to grow higher, accomplish more. This is at the heart of the tension over perhaps Chassidus, which of course emphasizes love and simcha and joy in Avas Hashem. Whereas there are others who say, but what about accountability? The truth is that if you lean into the world of Chassidus, you will find this balance as well. And the same thing goes for Misnagdim. In Chassidus, of course, there's an emphasis on acceptance, on embracing our humanity, our recognizing that we have a journey, but we should celebrate where we've gone. But there is also an emphasis on avoda, on growth. And within Chassidus, there are different approaches. And even those who come from a more, you could call it, Lithuanian type of background, as Rabbi Joseph B. Soloveitchik, who emphasized in his own life the nurturing aspect of his mother and the demanding of his father. So when we think about our own avodas Hashem, we need to think about our own dialectic, the dialectic of Ava and Yira, and how do we synthesize these as we both build on our successes and look for future growth in our avodas Hashem, in our spiritual lives.